Rebecca, so what does the proposal call for?
Well, it is a key sort of critical development for Evergrande in the saga, essentially looking to sort of dismantle the firm, sell the bulk of its assets, and then Cinder, a group led by Cinder, which is one of China's state-run bad debt managers, would take on anything that wasn't left. Now, on the one hand, of course, it's good for creditors that it looks like a clearer plan is going to emerge, that there is going to be a proposal to the government. However, so far, we know that the electric vehicle unit as well as the property management unit are not going to be sold, although they could be at a later time. And that could be a bit of a blow to creditors because the management services unit in particular is one of Evergrande's more valuable of its assets.
How's Evergrande's asset sales been going so far?
We've seen not particularly much progress on that front, but actually from a sort of offshore creditor point of view, that might be positive. I think there were some sort of concerns among some global investors that Evergrande would proceed with its asset sales without communicating clearly what was going to be happened to sort of all of that was remaining. So in some sense, that actually is a positive sign. However, this sort of time frame that we have been given, Evergrande saying to investors in a call earlier this week that they're going to present a plan in 6 months is quite long. And we already know that investor nerves have been quite frayed when it comes to Evergrande. We've seen the FT reporting that Oaktree is looking to seize land off the back of a loan that has been defaulted. And I think we can expect to see more pushback from either the ad hoc committee of holders or more pushback from sort of these big offshore individual creditors while we wait these sort of supposed 6 months for some kind of just an initial plan.
What sort of precedent would it set if this proposal goes through for other developers, of course, that are in trouble as well?
I think that's a really key sort of question, Sherry. I think on the one hand, of course, the fact that you see authorities sort of intimately involved, trying to accelerate the situation and crucially managing the fallout from that, that is a positive sign. Ultimately, all investors want to know is how are the rules of the game going to be changed? So we see this big uptick in defaults, of course, another record year last year. However, of course, Evergrande in some ways is quite unique. It is very rare in China to see a restructure of this kind of complexity. H&A is probably the only other similar comparison here. And of course, it's very unusual to see the state so intimately involved in a restructuring. Typically, they would sort of be more independently managed. And so I think when we look for precedents for other kind of restructures, particularly for developers who have driven that record a spate of defaults going into the end of last year, I think we should look at firms like Founder, CEFC, Tsinghua Unigroup. These are all kind of cases which show us the ways that offshore creditors might be treated, as well as showing us some kind of precedents for those types of offshore bonds that have been controversial, things like keep well notes, and all the different kind of guarantees that have been employed by Chinese borrowers over the last 5 to 10 years.